in New Zealand, you have like different categories of drivers, as in like, for example, when you first get your license, you got certain plates, and then a year in, you might get a different plate, and so on and so forth. Do you have that in New Zealand, like a red P plate or yeah? What is it? Is it like a red or green or what's it?
There is no restricted plate.
It's
Yellow,
Right.
Yes, learner.
Learner plate, and then after the learner plate mark, you get like your license. But is that like, do you have like a colour plate for like your license?
Just
you get the learner plate gets removed, but your actual license is a different colour.
A different colour.
Restricted hours.
Restricted. Okay, restricted hours. And then from there you graduate, you then pursue the full license, right? So, perfect. So I find, to illustrate this impact of urgency, you've got to have an urgency like a restricted driver, because they tend to, when you watch them drive, as they get more confident, they tend to take a few more chances. Is that fair to say? When they're at the lights, they don't like to be in, down four feet. They like to find the emergency lane and like to be in pole position. That's what like a new driver's like. When they're, they like, if they see a speed limit and that speed limit says, X, 60 kilometres an hour, they like to go 70 kilometres an hour. If they're on a freeway and somebody overtakes it, they're like, what the hell? Got to speed up, right? So I like that. I like the restricted driver in Australia. It's called a P plater. I love that driver in this metaphor of how to be like in this business, which is they like to be in pole position. They don't like to be overtaken. They like to like to break the limit. And I feel like you need a little bit of that in your working career, where you want to be in pole, where you want to break the limits, where you don't want to be overtaken. You're going to have a little bit of that, rather than, let's say, like the Tesla driver. Shane drives Tesla, right? What's the Tesla driver? Not Shane, but what are most Tesla drivers like? They're like the old school Volvo drivers. They're a bit overcautious, right? A bit overcautious, a bit sort of slow, a bit sort of, a little bit all over the place. When they're turning their indicator to turn, they take forever to make a decision. That's what I find, like, a Tesla driver taken over from the old Volvo drivers. So don't be that kind of driver in this business. Or the country driver. What's a country driver? Like somebody that's come from the country in New Zealand and they're driving in Auckland for the first time. What are they like on the roads? They're sort of like sightseeing a bit. Wow, look at these lights. Wow, look at this roads. And so you don't want to be the country driver that, well, you can, because most of us are like that when we get started in this industry, where everything's like new and foreign. But, be a little bit of a P plater, because I feel like if you want to get places in this industry, you need to sort of break the limit. So you need to ask your manager, what's the best score? What's the best score at this site? What's the best score on the road trip? What's the best this? You want to sort of have that, I want to get places. So that's my third tip, is have a sense of urgency. Don't worry if it takes a little bit longer, because somebody smartly said be patient, but have an urgency. And my last sort of tip for you, guys, is the why factor. You've got to have to build yourself a why factor. And the why factor, listen, was different for me at 20 than it is when you're 40 or 50. And what I mean by that, at 20, my why factors was having nice clothes, nice cars, apartments, lifestyle, weekend, all that kind of stuff, right? And, so that motivated me at 20, because that's the things that I wanted, so that drove me. So as you get older, it changes. So it doesn't mean it's wrong or right, it just changes. So, at 40, or 50, my why factor is my family, the schools that I want to send my kids to, the holidays that we want to go on, my older parents, my mother is 82, and, being able to financially support her, my why is time. I work hard to create wealth, so it buys me time. Time for the things that I want to do in my life. And my why factor is independence. The more success that I create, the more independent I become. I become independent instead of relying on government, instead of relying on banks, instead of relying on companies to make me successful or to give me X, Y, Z, I don't have to rely on any of that. Without it sounding arrogant, I've created a business, and hopefully you can do the same for you. And that is you can learn what's available within this industry, what's available within these marketing companies in New Zealand, and hopefully you can do what I've done, which is create these skills in order to build an organisation to give you that independence. Do not rely on everybody else. So Mark, that's me. Hopefully that sort of helps with some a lesson in leadership on how to replace yourself, a little bit about my career. Thanks for that.
That's awesome. Hey, thanks for that. Great topic, mate. So, but just to round it out, I want to go through a couple of opportunities. So, can everyone just chuck themselves on mute again? Just got a couple minutes left here. So, what we're trying to create, Shane and I are trying to create a long-term opportunity for you guys. So, if we can kind of give you the opportunity to grow and develop, then we can actually grow our organisation at the same time. So, we want to make sure we're helping more charities, more sports teams, more non-profit, and as an org, we actually have 100 guys at the moment, and we're raising around $30 million in forecast revenue from both sign-ups and one-offs. So it's pretty big. We're on a roll, and we want to create more room to grow, not just in New Zealand, but also expansion opportunities across Australia and even further afield. So I just imagine, I reckon just in New Zealand, if we tested the boundaries, we can actually have 1,000 guys in the field. Our problem at the moment is that we think too small. And I've been on this for a long time. Shane and I, we used to think we could have like 30 guys combined between the two of them. We could maybe have an office, we have about 15 guys each. You break barriers and you limit your thinking, and it's not until you probably go past what you thought was possible that you realize, maybe I am thinking a little too small here. So let's do some numbers just to prove that, how smart our thinking is. I worked out just in sign-ups, the agency just for charities, right? There's an agency called the PFRA, and there's 23 charities that the PFRA represent. There are 10 agencies working with the PFRA. So there's a lot of companies out there. There's a lot of marketing companies like Insight, like OTM, that contract to different agencies that work in charities and represent different campaigns on behalf of the PFRA. There's a lot of competitors out there. What's the population of New Zealand? At the moment, it's about 5.5 million people. So if we can layer territories and be doing things like not just events, also residential, also B2B, in every city across the country, how many guys do you think we could have? The reason I'm confident that I could say that I think we can actually push 1,000 people is because if we had 15 guys working in 23 charities, doing 3 strategies, which is B2B events and res, you go 15 times 23 plus 3, you end up with 1,035 guys. Does it sound like a lot? 1,000 guys sound like a lot? Is anyone with Vodafone or 1NZ, the company, on their phone? Put your hands up. Some of us, yeah? They've got 3,000 employees. Has anyone heard of a little company called Fonterra? Produce milk? Yeah, a lot of farmers know Fonterra. They got 20,000 employees. So if we just had 1,000 guys, only 1,000 guys, we could generate more than $250 million for charities and non-profit sports teams, which is 10 times where we're at now. It's about $300 million. So that's a pretty huge long-term goal. What we're trying to create in the shorter term, which is from now to the end of the year, is space and opportunity for 150 sales contractors. So to do that, we need to grow by 50%. So that means some of you guys on this call, even newer leaders, will be training and mentoring, managing teams of 3 to 5 to 7, 10, 12 to 15 guys by the end of this year. And you'll be picking up team incentives for things like sales coach, extra $5 a sale, which is 2% for sports, or extra $10 a sale for team leader, which is 4% for sports. So there's a lot of opportunity out there to grow. The vision in the shorter term, just for May and June over the next 2 months, is to push to 120 sales contractors. There's room for 20 people. So my question to you guys is, who's going to put their hands up and take that responsibility, or who's going to grow their team? Because to do this, Shane and I, we're going to be maximising our recruitment. So we need everyone on this call to help us drive sales averages and have a huge focus on the development and retention of the new starters. Cool, so you just got to ask yourself, you know, what size of the pizza, what size of the slice do I want to have? Cool? Okay guys, I just want to wrap and say thanks for everyone jumping on the call. Thanks very much to our guest, Anthony. Can we give him one more round of applause?